Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nick and Sanjee Podcast, where we share our tips and tricks on how to start a YouTube channel as we ourselves go on that journey. In fact, we've been on that journey for a few years now and we've achieved a certain level of success. Nick, would you say?
Yeah, get in there, slowly learning, slowly but surely. Can't believe it's been 4 years for you, 5 years, and then three and a half for me. It's crazy.
It is, and we're definitely a lot further than where we were before. We're not at quite our goals as where we want to be, but we're definitely on the way. So in preparation for today's podcast, I actually thought I'd have a quick look at some of the stats in terms of how we've been going. And we haven't been doing too bad. I could see we've had about 10 subscribers join us. So thank you to those of you who have watched us on YouTube and joined us. That's fantastic. 10 subscribers is quite a lot in the early days. 133 views, 7 hours of watch time, which is very impressive considering each episode's about 30, 40 minutes each. So people are really enjoying these videos, at least to some extent, and staying on with us. I think our retention was okay, but that's probably the nature of podcasts in the early days. But in terms of Buzzsprout, how have those stats been looking, Nick?
Not too bad. So if you guys aren't aware, Buzzsprout is just our podcasting platform where we send out all the episodes to all the platforms. So I think our most popular one so far is Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave us a rating and a review. That will be very helpful. But thanks for listening to everyone who's on Apple or on Spotify, Google Podcasts. It's been great.
Yes, you've joined us at the start of an amazing journey. We will go on to become very famous podcasters and YouTubers. So you can talk about how you saw them first when they were very small, and Nick had a great setup, but Sanjee had a blue wire coming down from his ceiling and various things, but such is the nature. So today's topic is going to be about things that we have learned from our favorite YouTubers. We're going to share a couple of things, maybe 3 things each. We'll bounce between each other. But we've both been consumers of YouTube videos for a few years now, and we've also now just started our YouTube channels. So we wanted to share some of the things that we've watched and learned from our favorite YouTubers and what we've tried to incorporate into our own videos from that. So I'll start first, Nick, and then I'll bounce off to you. So I'll start with some of my favorite YouTubers, and I don't think anyone will be surprised. The classic Casey Neistat would be the first one. Ali Abdaal, Peter McKinnon, and Colin and Samir. Colin and Samir has probably been a more recent one in the YouTube space in terms of the podcasting style. And they've been great great inspiration, I think, for us as well. I know, especially for me, when we kicked off, I was like, this is the kind of style we want. We're not quite at the point where we can interview other people. I don't think anyone wants to get interviewed by us, maybe, yet. But certainly we are at the point where we've got a bit to share and we're following how they do it. Now, in terms of things I've learned from Casey and probably Peter as well, has been the idea of storytelling. Casey talks a lot around storytelling in his videos, especially when he was even doing the daily video. There was so much we could learn from him around how he managed to find a story and the story arc in each video. Great way for people to maintain their interest in a video, especially when each video, it's not always clear from the thumbnail exactly what it's going to be about. I think storytelling for those kind of vlogs are probably really handy. In terms of talking head videos, probably what you and I do, Nick, it's probably a bit trickier to do necessarily a story arc because we're sharing with you information. What do you think? There's information to give you. There's certainly an arc in terms of how we share the information. There's an intro, the main body, and a couple of concluding comments. But yeah, I find storytelling is definitely something I want to incorporate more for some of my videos. And it will certainly, I think, help with retention as well to some extent. What are your thoughts on storytelling?
definitely. I agree. It's like I found it kind of a bit of a challenge thinking about storytelling as well from the point of view as of a YouTuber who's more talking head, sit in front of a camera, explain something. But I think like Ali Abdul's the classic example. He's got some really good frameworks because most of his videos are sit down in front of a camera, talking head, but the frameworks he uses to sort of direct the narrative or where the video is going from a storytelling point of view, I found really helpful. And I've still got a very long way to go in terms of getting good at it. But yeah, I think there's definitely good techniques out there in terms of how to tell a story that aren't just in terms of, acting out a story in the same way that Casey Neistat might. So I think it's just about finding the right techniques and then, watching YouTubers, like we're saying, who are good at it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So what about yourself, Nick? What are some of your favorite YouTubers and things you've learned from them?
I've got a bit of a list. Some of mine were similar to yours, like Casey Neistat was obviously a classic example. But before we get to mine, I had a question for you actually, just about.
Yep.
I noticed because I could see your list of favorite YouTubers in our notes, and I noticed that there's no one really in like the finance space. These are like mostly guys who are in a very different niche. So like, what's the reason behind that for you?
This is an incredibly good question because now you've put me on the spot and I hadn't even thought about it. I think I did enjoy a lot of Graham Stephan's YouTube videos in the early days.
Yeah.
I think he sort of sprouted out a bit into a couple of different domains, but I certainly enjoyed watching his. And I think it's interesting because especially being a US focused person, some of the things were maybe not relevant entirely to the Australian consumer, and yet he was able to maintain our interests, I guess, to some extent. But outside of that, I actually find a lot of my favorite personal finance people. There's two reasons, I think. One is I don't like watching other Australian personal finance people because I'm worried I'll just steal their ideas. Because it's so easy. Yeah, it's so easy to watch one of them say something and then be reluctant to have to repeat the same thing in your own video. So what I like to do is to pretty much avoid watching their videos, but look at the thumbnail and then I'll know, oh yeah, I know what they're talking about in that video, and kind of leave it at that. Otherwise I'll feel like I'm stealing their ideas. The second one is, the second one I think is for me around a lot of these YouTubers is I watch a lot of institutional YouTube channels like Ray Dalio's Bridgewater, the ARK Invest people, We Study Billionaires, their podcast. So I watch a lot of institutional channels which are also run by companies that I think I just didn't, I assumed I wouldn't count them because they're not quite YouTubers, they're not individuals. So I was focusing more on individuals that I like to watch. But that's a good question.
Gotcha. Interesting. Because I've noticed that with some of my other friends who like aren't necessarily in like videography, for example, but they're big fans of Peter McKinnon. And I always found that kind of fascinating because it's like it's not content that's necessarily aimed at them, but I think it's kind of like what we talked about before, like storytelling techniques, engagement, entertainment, all those sorts of things. I think all those top guys are really good at that. So it's kind of like mass appeal regardless of the niche. And so it makes me think about how I can try and incorporate that into my own videos. Like if I've got a more niche video, how can I make it more mass appeal? Which is kind of like what we talked about in the last podcast. But anyway, I'm digressing a bit. So I'll get back to my list of favorite YouTubers. So I've got a few that may or may not know. Johnny Harris is one. He does like informational videos about all sorts of different topics. Tyler Storman is a tech guy. I really like his aesthetic. Evan Ramft, I don't know how you say that exactly, but he's a photographer, I think, in Canada. He's got some really cool videos. Oliur is another big one I really like. Another tech influencer, YouTuber. MKBHD, I think a lot of people know MKBHD or Marquez Brownlee. And then Think Media with Sean Cannell and The Future with Chris Doe. The last two are kind of where I got a lot of my inspiration and motivation to keep making YouTube videos and the practical side of it. And I think the big thing I've learned from all these guys, the first thing was just like provide value, basically, which I think we touched on in the last podcast as well. You know, like making sure our videos are actually giving people something that they can use, or some sort of value that they get out of the video that's not just serving us. And I think the thing I try and do these days, I was even trying to do it today when I was watching some YouTube videos, was when I'm watching it, I ask myself, why am I watching this video, and why am I still watching it? Like, why am I engaged? And often it's because I'm getting something out of the video, like whether it's entertainment or information or some sort of instructions or whatever it is. And then I think about some of the videos I've made in the past, and I don't think they'd give many people much value at all. Like, they were just like experimentation for me. Like, I did some videos where it was just some different videography techniques and didn't really give anyone anything, so they never went anywhere. But yeah, like my most popular videos, again, like we talked about last time, have been ones that have actually given people something that they can use, some sort of value that they can take from it. And yeah, all of these channels that I really follow, I think, are great examples of like providing real value and something that I get out of it. So yeah, don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
I agree. The value thing is definitely important when, I think I've said it before, is what Graham Stephan said in his early training days, is around, you just got to give people value immediately and they know that they're going to get value. And I think as well, I often think, what are the videos that I've abandoned? Because we've both seen our retention charts and we've seen that people do leave our videos, at certain points. And I think of the videos that I've abandoned, I think it's when I either feel it's not answering the question that I thought it would answer, or it's taking too long to get to the point. And sometimes I might try and skip forward, but there's a chance as well that I might abandon it at times as well. The other thing I'm often wondering is are people going to leave after the ad? Because sometimes I've worried about putting ads on a video because I think people might leave after an ad. But I find I'll still watch ads in the middle of a video because I still enjoy those videos. Like, I've never stopped watching a video just because the ad came on and I thought, oh, this is not worth hanging around to see the video kick off again. So I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, I definitely agree. Adding value is important, and showing how you're going to add value early on as well.
Yes, that's a great point. And even like you say, in terms of like mid-roll ads or even sponsored spots in the middle of videos, like often I'm willing to watch them, or just sometimes I'll just skip through them because I'm so keen to get the rest of the value in the video. Like, trying to think of an example. Even today I was watching a video from Johnny Harris, and it was just talking about the history of Mormonism, which is kind of like just a random topic. But the way he presented it was so interesting and intriguing, and I just wanted to find out what was going to happen next. And so, yeah, again, I was like able to either sit through or skip through the advertising in the middle to get the value that's there. And that's the thing. I think if I feel like there's not more value coming, that's when I'm going to click away. Like, if the ad comes up, it's like, it's probably not much more I'm going to get out of this video. I'll just go find something else that'll give me more of what I want. So, and then, yeah, like you said, giving the value early. That's something that Ali Abdul, I think, is really good at. Like, he'll upfront tell you the value that he's going to give in the video, so that you know what you're going to get, and then you're expecting it like throughout the video, which keeps you engaged. So, yeah, really good tips, definitely.
My next one is on, and I think we've got a bit of overlap. I called it hygiene, but I essentially mean watching these YouTubers has made me learn a lot about the importance of good camera angles, lighting, microphones, thumbnails, and even specifically around good camera angles, around the quality of, or the value of, an overhead shot if you're explaining things. And also I'll probably add to that list in real-time B-roll, which I know I definitely don't do enough of. I think you do this quite well, Nick, is around the value of B-roll. And you've got your custom B-roll too, rather than just stock B-roll. But that's what I've also seen is, as a YouTuber, it's so easy to just hit record and talk to camera. But to make an interesting video, you need to make sure all these things combine really well. And I remember a big piece of insight that I think was Ali in one of his training courses said was people will almost put up with low quality video if the audio is good. So it's a surprising thing quality audio has an impact on your willingness to kind of endure poor quality video. But if you've got great video and terrible audio, it's always very tricky to probably stay interested in those. Especially like if it's audio straight out of a camera, like if someone does a video and it's the audio straight out of a camera, I'm just not interested. Like I can get the echo. I'm just not impressed. It's terrible.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not sure if you had any thoughts or if you wanted to kind of bounce off that for some of your thoughts around visual aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, that was my second big learning. It was pretty similar. Like learning aesthetics and cinematic techniques from other YouTubers that I watch. Like, again, with most of these guys are all great examples of good aesthetics, good cinematic techniques, good videography. I think the top ones I had was Tyler Storman. His videos are really well made. I think he was previously like a professional videographer, so that makes sense. Evan Ranft, his videos are pretty simple, but again, I think he makes them look quite nice. And then Oliur as well. He actually doesn't use heaps of B-roll, which I find really interesting, but I still really enjoy just looking at his frame because he's got really nice color grading. All his setups are really clean and minimalist, and I just find it enjoyable to watch.
What's Oliur's actual topic?
Oliur is mainly tech. His main channel is tech, but then he's got a second channel which is kind of like business advice for content creators. It's actually, I find it really, really good. So I definitely recommend it for similar types of stuff that we're talking about here. I mean, and online business and like e-commerce and stuff like that. Like he's built up quite a few businesses online, and he's got the 2 successful YouTube channels. So they're really good. But I think the thing I was thinking about, like, why does aesthetics matter? Why do cinematic techniques matter? And it probably goes back to your first point, which was storytelling. Because I think a well thought out, like frame or shot or something can really help communicate and tell the story better. And I think obviously with video and YouTube, like we're trying to communicate something and hopefully communicate something of value. And so any type of cinematic technique or videography technique that helps you communicate more clearly, I think that's the key thing for me. So one thing I can't remember where I heard it or who I heard it from, but it was the idea of like showing and not telling. So the idea is like if you can show someone something in a video just with, demonstrating it rather than just talking about it, that's always a better way to go because it's more engaging. Like people are more, more engaged by seeing something play out rather than just hearing someone, verbally recite it. And so it's something I try to do with my videos, and it helps that a lot of my stuff is text. So, you can demonstrate it quite clearly by just filming a B-roll shot of me doing the action or using the piece of tech for the given thing. So there's that. And then also I think the big thing for me with B-roll is that I think it just helps with engagement because, I know I get bored just, watching the same thing for too long. And so if I can cut it up with, different shots to keep it interesting, I think that really helps to keep people engaged.
Great. So my next one was around consistency, which I've learned from a lot of these YouTubers, and the importance of consistency being around. And we've actually done an episode on consistency and both of our struggles, probably mine more so, over the last year or so. So please do check that out. But I've certainly enjoyed, I remember there was a period in my life when I was watching a lot of Peter McKinnon and Maddie, and I just really enjoyed getting home on particular days. I think they both had a bit of a weekly and sometimes maybe twice a week upload date. And I really enjoyed getting home and looking forward to just watching their videos. And there was something about, we're living in Australia and watching someone in Canada navigate life in Canada with the snow and all of this. And at the time, I wasn't that interested in photography, but I just enjoyed engaging with them and their content. And I really appreciated the fact that because they were consistent, it helped build, I guess, a legitimacy in my mind around them, instead of it just being I would watch only 1 or 2 videos, but I would almost get the latest update with what's going on in their life. And I remember when they moved offices, or when they moved from being in individual rooms to moving into their own offices, and then, the struggles of building up the office and then hiring people, all of that, I felt like I went on the journey just because they consistently uploaded content on all of those things. Yeah. And then the other side of consistency I also find is they're consistent in their messaging and to some extent their video style. Like you watch a Casey Neistat video, you know it's going to be a good video just because his style is kind of, edgy at the start, and then it kind of, there's an interesting story element, and then he kind of finishes it off really quickly so you don't feel like you're wasting your time. There's no long outro. It's just, okay, we're done. Thanks. So that I really thought, consistency, both in terms of uploading and just a literal putting videos out there and making people feel part of your community. But then secondly, consistency in style, that people know what they're going to get from you if they watch one of your videos.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so interesting. Like, I feel like, again, that goes back to the idea of storytelling. It's like consistency and storytelling are going, like, sort of working together. Because the fact that they were consistent meant that they had almost like a narrative through their videos that you were following, like a story arc. So that's really interesting. And I've even noticed that with my own videos, like some of my subscribers have sort of commented on the journey that I've gone through, like even this year moving into full-time content creation. When I make update videos about how it's going, like I notice like the same people comment and say, oh, that's really interesting to hear where you're up to and how it's all going. So yeah, I'd never thought of it like in regards to that quite so clearly. So that's really interesting. Do you have any more thoughts?
Well, I'm always just wondering, how can I apply that into my life? And it's pretty straightforward. And it'll be interesting because I think I'm shifting now away from personal finance into other topics. So it'll be interesting to see how people kind of react to that second piece of the consistency around knowing, if I watch one of his videos, I'm going to get this, but it might be more, if I watch one of Sanjee's videos, I'll get a very clear narrative in terms of what he's going to give me. He's going to avoid giving me advice, but I'll still feel like I'll get some kind of in-depth value out of it. So that's certainly been my kind of underlying thought around how I can use consistency in my life. So tell me more about the business mindset that you feel like you're getting from some of these guys.
Yeah. So I think, the third big thing was business mindset for me, and just kind of like, I think being more mindful about how to make my YouTube channel more viable and sustainable as a business. And I guess it's different for everyone depending on what your goals are. Like for me, one of my goals is for my channel to be sustainable as my full-time income. Whereas for someone else who it's more of like a hobby or a side income, it might not be as big of a deal. But I think the 3 big ones for me was Think Media, which you may have heard of. Like they're quite a big sort of YouTube growth channel. And then The Future, it's led by Chris Do, I think it is. And he's more of a marketing guy. So he talks about like a lot of different marketing techniques, not just for content, but also for business more broadly. Like I think he's a marketing consultant, something like that. I don't watch all their videos because a lot of it's not relevant, but some of it is really relevant to content creators. And then Oliur's second channel, again, I definitely will recommend and plug his channel because, again, he's got a lot of background with online business and studying e-commerce stuff and then content creation. So I think watching their content is just a really good motivation for me and a constant reminder of how I can think about ways to make money and generate income from my content. Because I think for me, the temptation is to just focus solely on the content. And like in some ways it's a good thing. Like you should be focused on the content. But I think it can be easy to get so focused on it that you don't think about how it's going to make you money. But I think for it to be successful for me, like in terms of making it my full-time income, you actually have to be intentional about developing the business side of a YouTube channel alongside developing your creative skills. And I mean, luckily for me, like I really enjoy like the business side. Like I've had small businesses in the past, and like that's one part of YouTube that I really enjoy. So makes it pretty easy for me. And then, yeah, like again, these channels give lots of good practical advice in terms of diversifying your income and that type of thing. So yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm always keen to hear about your experience on the business side, because I think you're light years ahead of me, and ideally, like I'm nowhere there yet, and I'm not even sure if that's necessarily where I want to go, but I would definitely like to set like a goal of, it would be great if I get to the point where I could almost be earning the same amount of money from YouTube as I earn in my full-time job. So, I think that's a great goal for me to have. But I think because I don't take it too seriously enough, I'm not pushing as hard on the business side. Because I do agree, I think that is something that you have to be quite conscious of from the early days. Because otherwise you become someone who's, overly focused on money, which I don't think either of us want to be. We still want to make great videos, but it's easy to focus too much on just making great videos and forget about the revenue generation. Because if nothing else, YouTube is a great marketing platform and kind of reach and engagement platform where you just get, we've all got many thousands of subscribers, which is, difficult to get on any other platform, I think, or they're worth a lot more in terms of the amount of time people will put into watching one of your videos. So that's it's definitely something I need to work on as well, more so around, I've got this great way for people to be exposed to me, and then is there something else I can add in addition to giving the video itself, but is there something else I can give value in a sense that people will then want to tap into that as well. And
I think that's one of the things I really like about it. It's kind of like a challenge in terms of how can you develop something that gives people enough value that they're actually willing to pay for it. I think that's the challenge for me. Because I've tried, free products or even just, low cost products on my channel so far, but I think they haven't been high enough value. And so that's why I've struggled to sell them. So it's kind of like, it makes me actively think about how I can generate value for my viewers, not just in my content, but also in products or, even affiliate links or whatever it is. And so I think it helps me to stay in the right mindset of like, how can I provide for other people, not just for myself? And also I think the other thing I was going to say about that was just watching people, even like Evan Ranth. I think he's been really inspirational for me because he doesn't have a massive channel. I think when I first started watching him, he maybe had 120k or something like that. So it's not huge, like still big, but not huge. But he was making a full-time living from it. Same with Oliur. Like I think when I started following him, he maybe had 150, and he was making really good money. So I think it was a good reminder that it's not just about having big numbers. Like it's also again about like how you actually go about generating value, how you actually go about creating income streams from the followers you do have. And even I've heard from Think Media, and that's the other one I forgot to mention. Film Booth is probably one of my favorite YouTube growth channels. But maybe my favorite. He's really good. But he talks about how there's channels out there that he knows of who have like 15,000 subscribers, and they make, I think, like low six figures each year. So it's all about how you can I guess it all comes back to providing value for your viewers. So all really inspirational stuff for me, I reckon. So yeah.
That's good. Certainly your suggestions or your mentions of the future and Oliur, I'm going to have to really look into Oliur because it sounds like he's in that space around business and YouTube and income making out of it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or anything you might have missed, Nick, before we wrap up?
I think just like, chatting about it with you has been really interesting in that I feel like I've noticed some real key themes being woven throughout all of them, like storytelling, providing value. What else? I mean, like they all sort of tie together. Like consistency is part of providing value. Hygiene and visual aesthetics is part of providing value and communication. So it just all kind of ties together, and it really makes me realize that there's kind of a few key things that I think I need to focus on more, like rather than getting distracted with all this sort of, potentially peripheral things for me. Like maybe I just need to keep reminding myself, hey, this is like the main thing. Make sure you're providing value. I think that will make a big difference for me and hopefully for anyone who's watching.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, if you have made it this far in the YouTube platform, please leave a comment. I'm really keen to see who's getting towards the end of our videos. We do see in the stats that there are some people who make it all the way to the end. So we'd love to hear from you if you've made it this far. Really appreciate your viewership, especially, and what you thought of the episode. So, Nick, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and your journey?
I am on YouTube, so just Nick Kendall, and then Instagram. I'm posting a little bit less on Instagram at the moment, but I'm at @NickKendall_, and then my website is nickkendall.com.au. How about you, Sanjee?
Yeah, so I'm Sanjee Sen on YouTube, and I haven't been posting at all, so I'll be posting very soon. Stand by, it'll be very exciting. On Instagram, I don't post at all either, but I have got my blue check, so at least no one is pretending to be me and posting more than me, because that was a real issue back in the day. I do think I need to get a couple of posts out on Instagram. I find a Instagram post probably not too tricky. And also now with the YouTube community tabs, you can almost convert your Instagram post into a community tab. So I'd like to do a bit of that.
True.
And I also have my website, sanjeesen.com, which is also there. I was thinking of doing a bit of a refresh, but I don't think there's much activity going there anyway. But please do check it out. And we both have newsletters, Nick.
Yeah, we do. You can subscribe. It's on my website. I've missed the last 2 months. We'll pretend that that's not the case. It's a monthly newsletter, guys, so subscribe.
Yeah, I'm not far from you. I mean, I'm sort of, I think, 12 months from my monthly-ish newsletter latest issue. So I definitely do need to refresh mine. But let's definitely try and get that kicked off for both of us over the next month or so. That'll be good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye for now.